Hey Spartans, welcome back to another video. So this video is going to be super hard to make because I never make unscripted videos because first of all I am Mexican, I am not American, I am not from the States, I am from Mexico, and obviously English, the English tongue, is not my mother language. My mother language is Spanish. Hola amigos, ¿cómo están? Soy Midnight el Espartano. ¿Cómo están guapos y guapas? Espero que tengan un hermoso día. You know, I am Mexican, so sometimes I do have a really hard time expressing my thoughts in English. That's why I sometimes, not sometimes, I always do videos scripted. But I think these types of videos, especially with this topic, I think I need to tackle this video and this topic with my raw, unfiltered emotions and thoughts. Because like it or not, when you do a script, you normally do not talk from the heart. You do not express yourself correctly, and I am passionate about this topic, so this video, again, like my last video, is going to be unscripted, and I hope you guys like this type of content. I want to have a conversation with you guys, so that's why I'm doing it like this. This is like the 12th time I'm recording this video. For the love of God, please let me do it this time. It's so hard, really. But anyways, we had an update on the whole controversy, drama situation surrounding the Doom Eternal soundtrack and Mick Gordon. Marty the executive producer at id Software, released a post on Reddit, a really big and long post talking about everything that happened with the development of the Doom Eternal soundtrack. And let me tell you, in summary, this is just basically the combination of very bad and unfortunate situations. But before I dive into the bread and butter of this video, I need to give an apology to Bethesda and ZeniMax, because when I made those videos talking about the soundtrack, in my mind, I really thought that Bethesda and ZeniMax were the ones at fault. I really thought that Bethesda and ZeniMax were the ones that effed over Mick Gordon and took creative freedom from him, basically, on the soundtrack. But that couldn't be further than the truth, and Bethesda, ZeniMax, I'm sorry, and guys, I was wrong, and right now I'm going to be better. I was wrong, and I apologize. I hope you can forgive me. But anyways, I'm not going to read the whole thing, of course, because it is very big, but I'm going to highlight very important parts from this really big post, like this one. Some have suggested that we have been careless with or disrespectful of the game music. Others have speculated that Mick wasn't given the time or creative freedom to deliver something different or better. The fact is, none of that is true. To summarize the whole situation, Bethesda, ZeniMax, and id Software gave Mick Gordon a deadline to meet to be able to release the soundtrack. Mick wasn't able to meet the deadline, and therefore he asked id Software to compromise on the agreement and the contract, and asked for more time to finish and develop the soundtrack. id Software gave Mick Gordon more time, 6 weeks, to work on the soundtrack, and in the midst of those 6 weeks, Mick Gordon was talking with id Software, and he was letting id Software know that he was running into some issues developing the soundtrack and the mixing of the tracks. id Software, in fear that they weren't going to be able to release a soundtrack in time to meet the deadline, they came with a backup plan, which was basically asking their lead audio engineer Chad to do their own id Software version of the soundtrack. Chad mixed some tracks, Mick mixed some tracks, and they mixed some tracks together. When the soundtrack was released, the fans noticed the dip in quality that the soundtrack had in comparison to Doom 2016 and other tracks. They were comparing the tracks Chad did with the tracks Mix did, and a whole situation came over that. Like, people were attacking Chad, which I do not condone, and that's not good. I'm going to be talking about later in the video, but basically, after the tracks and the soundtrack were released to the people, Mick let know that he wasn't happy with the final product, and he basically said to id Software that he doubted that they were going to work together in the future, which id Software didn't have plans on, because id Software wanted to work with Mick in the future, but apparently Mick didn't. So yes, unfortunate situation. I understand Mick, because he's an artist, and you know, it's your bread and butter, it's your project, your passion project, and I would be pissed if the end product will be stained like that. Like, you understand. But yes, basically Mick wasn't able to work on the whole soundtrack, on the whole mixing, because of this unfortunate situation that was basically meeting the deadline. And yes, he didn't like the end product, and here we are, right now, like this. It is important to understand that there is a difference between music mixed for inclusion in the game and music mixed for inclusion in the OST. Several people have noted this difference when looking at the waveforms but have misunderstood why there is a difference at all. When a track looks bricked or like a bar, where the extreme highs and lows of the dynamic range are clipped, this is how we receive the music from Mick for inclusion in the game, in fragments pre-mixed and pre-compressed by him. Those music fragments he delivers then go into our audio system and are combined in real time as you play through the game. Basically, the game riffs are compressed so hard because if they don't, they are going to basically break the game. They are rendered in real time after all. Or not rendered, but you get the point. But yes, this was just a very big unfortunate situation. Mick Gordon wasn't able to finish the soundtrack because of the deadline. He had to work in unison with Chad and he wasn't happy with the end product. Which is fine. It's his opinion, it's his work. And I would be pissed if that happened to me as well. But okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the real thing here. The real thing that really pisses me off so much. When I first made the first video talking about the soundtrack, I asked the community to be civil and respectful about the situation. I asked for no pitchforks, for no witch hunting, and what I basically got was the opposite, really. Everyone was either blaming Bethesda, which I was guilty of. I apologize, Bethesda. It was my fault. I was wrong. I was in the wrong. I apologize. But everyone was either blaming Bethesda or witch hunting for Chad, the lead audio engineer on its software. I had to filter and erase some comments from my original video because there were people being really mad about Chad touching Mick's godly work and stuff like that. That he stained Mick's work by touching the work with his ugly and staining hands. Like there were really mean people. Like they were being assholes on the internet. Like okay, this is the internet. Okay, the internet is filled with assholes. Like that's fine. It's the stupid internet, but still. I cannot believe that people from the Doom community were witch hunting Chad, the lead audio engineer at its software, which is a very, you know, if he's the lead audio engineer at its software, a developer with that much prestige, it is because he does his work fantastic and phenomenal. I cannot believe people were witch hunting and pitchforking for Chad. That's absolutely stupid, and I do not condone that at all. If there's one thing we can gather by this situation is that people should really stop, they should really stop witch hunting when they do not know the full truth. They should stop trying to pointing fingers at every direction, trying to find someone to blame. People should really stop that. Nothing is going to be gained by that. Some of the insults they were giving Chad were really personal. And you know that when things get that personal, dude, you have a problem. So people, you should stop doing that. If you did that, please guys, repent and try to be better. Like, I wholeheartedly ask you to repent and be better, because there's no reason at all to be like that, you know? But okay, what was the unfortunate situation? Why was the soundtrack rushed? Why was the soundtrack rushed at this extent? The reason is because the soundtrack was a collector item from the collector's edition, and so because of some laws that protect the consumer in some countries, id Software, Bethesda and ZeniMax were basically forced to release the soundtrack. It's not like they can just say, oh, okay, we can release a soundtrack in 4 months and call it a day. No, there are laws that protect the consumer in various countries, laws that can vary from country to country that protect the consumer. If Bethesda, ZeniMax and id Software didn't release the soundtrack the 19th of April and waited for more time for Mick to work on the soundtrack, People could have asked for refunds, stuff like that. Maybe not sue the company, but you know, they want profit. I mean, it is a business. You need to look at this as a business, because it is a business, and because of these laws, basically ZeniMax, Bethesda, its software, everyone had to step down and release the soundtrack. That is the unfortunate situation. It is not Bethesda's fault. It is not its software's fault. It is not ZeniMax's fault. It is no one's fault. It is the law. And you know, when the law is the law, you cannot break the law. Breaking the law, you know, you cannot break the law. Hello? So yes, this situation is no one's fault. If you want someone to blame, you can say that, oh well, if they didn't make the soundtrack a collector's item, they could have worked on the soundtrack for 6 more months, you know, but because they made the soundtrack a collector's item, they had to do all of this, and that's why we got to the place we are now. Anyways, guys, please be calm, be civil about the situation. It is not like the soundtrack sucks. The soundtrack is absolutely effing fantastic. The songs are amazing. The Gladiator boss song is fantastic. Karn took BFG 10,000, the Super Gornist mid hook is fantastic. Like, the whole soundtrack is like a banger. It's a bomber. It's so good. It's not bad, and we need to stop acting like it is bad, because it is not bad. It is a fantastic soundtrack. Yes, some of the songs are dipped in quality, but still the soundtrack is amazing. It is fantastic, and people should stop acting like this soundtrack is the worst soundtrack of all time, because it is not. It is one of the best soundtracks of all time. It is the best Doom soundtrack, in my opinion. But okay, it has been confirmed that Mick Gordon is not going to be working in the production of the new DLC for Doom Eternal. We do not know if they're going to be working together in future DLCs or in future Doom games, but at least we know that for this DLC, they're not going to be working together. I really wish for the best for both parties, and I really want Mick Gordon to keep working with its software and Bethesda to produce more Doom soundtracks and compose more music and stuff like that, because Mick has fans, not only Doom fans, like Mick has real fans as well. But okay, if Mick is not going to compose more Doom soundtracks or more Doom tracks in the future, I really nominate Andrew Holshut. I do not know how to pronounce your last name, dude, but I nominate Andrew, the composer of Dusk soundtrack. That soundtrack is absolutely fantastic. I have hiccups. But okay, Spartans, I think I'll let it here. That was the update about the situation. Again, I apologize to Bethesda and ZeniMax and its software. I was in the wrong, and I am sorry, and I hope you can forgive me. I'm never going to do that again. I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon just because, you know, I was in the wrong, and I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to be way better. Like Kratos said, do not be sorry, be better, and that's what I'm going to do. Anyways, Spartans, have an awesome day, and I'll see you later on my stream or in tomorrow's video. Adios.